Cool. So we are at the Saturday slate now, and I'm excited for this matchup. Actually, it's Georgia Tech against Boston College. It's a neutral spot, and it opened three. It's sitting around 3.5 most spots, and I think that's fair. My actual number is 4.5 for Georgia Tech. Excuse me. They're a team that definitely deserves, I guess the value or where they're being valued entering the season. They lost a ton of close games last year. They only won three total, which is kind of nuts when you look at the fact that just 2 years ago they were in the ACC title game against Florida State and took them down to the final few possessions, and then Florida State went on to win the entire thing and beat Auburn. And so this is a team that a drop off like that, I guess, from that caliber down to 3-19 is kind of fluky, and it was. There's a lot of bad luck in some of the metrics and turnovers and late in games, and I think they're going to be a better team this year. I projected, I think, like 6.4 wins, and so 6 or 7 wins, and the number 6.5. And anyways, I'm excited for Georgia Tech just in general because they're a team I love actually watching the option because not that many teams do it well, and they're one that does. And so I was actually looking at the numbers, and the reason why I'm excited for this particular matchup is it's not really like a clash of styles, but it's a clash of teams that play similar styles. And they run the ball a lot, and that's their focus. Georgia Tech ran it the fifth most out of any team last year in the country, behind the three academies: Army, Navy, Air Force, and then Georgia Southern. And Boston College is right there too. They're 14th in the country in run play percentage, and it's just like within 0.5% of Baylor and Stanford were 12th and 13th. And they're only 12th and 13th because they're up so much in the second halves of a lot of their games. They're just running the ball to run clock. Boston College is, 64% of the time they're running the ball, but that includes all the time they're having to pass in the fourth quarters because they're down, and that's all they can do. And so really it comes down to their focus, obviously, is running the football. And for some of these bad teams that are that high of a percentage of run plays, even when they're down late in games, it's telling of how much they do try to run the ball early. And so really we have to look at, and this is what I did for this game, is how these teams fared last year against the run. Run opponent yards per rush would be the, I guess, metric that you want to use. How efficient were they per play when their opponents ran the ball. And Boston College was number 2 in the entire country, 2.7 yards per carry. Alabama was number 1 at 2.3, and then nobody else, everyone was 3 or worse. And Georgia Tech was like tied for 83rd with a bunch of schools. And so the advantage there completely, is Boston College's side. And so you think, oh, they're going to be able to stop the option and do well. When you actually look at how effectively, even though both teams run the option a lot, how effectively do they actually run it? And despite running run plays for 64% of the time, 14th in the country, Boston College is like 90th in yards. they just don't run it very well themselves. So a team like Georgia Tech, who doesn't defend it as well, they're defending a lot weaker run game. And a team that does defend it really, really well, Boston College, is defending a really strong run game. Georgia Tech obviously ran for a lot of yards. So that's why I think that's just a really intriguing matchup. Where it's going to go beyond me. I could see this easily being like a 13-17 or 13-10, like lower scoring, small ball type game. But Georgia Tech seems to find ways to play games that get into like the 30s too. So I'm kind of just gonna sit back and watch this one. But it really does intrigue me. I don't know if I mentioned at the beginning of the video. I know that's why some of you guys are watching these. My number's 4.5. Georgia Tech favorite. So 3.5. Like, technically, there's a point of value there. I don't think it's anything worth playing though at this point. So we'll wait and see where it goes. But this is one I'm just gonna probably really enjoy. Maybe live bet, look for some in-game spots if I feel like one team does have an edge into the first, second, third, fourth quarters. But anyway, for that we'll move on to the next game.